Greetings friends, you are on the Ruslan Belov channel. Today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine as of March 29, 2025. A huge number of events have occurred today, so let's get started. Before we begin, I would sincerely like to ask you to subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you help the channel grow. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. Well, now let's move on to the combat contact line. And overall, if we look at how the map has changed and what events have taken place over the past 24 hours, we can conclude that the Ukrainian side truly needs some reserves, possibly some kind of backup in the form of a foreign contingent, at least somewhere in the Western territories, because without assistance from the West, Ukraine will definitely not be able to hold out for the next 6 to 9 months. It will be extremely difficult to do so, or it will come at a very high cost in terms of losses. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, starting with the South Donetsk direction. Let me remind you that 2 days ago, pro-Russian sources reported that the armed forces of the Russian Federation had broken through the defense of the Ukrainian armed forces north of the settlement of Dnipropetrovsk. During a decisive and rapid assault, the Russian army managed to advance to the eastern outskirts of the village of Veselaya. This was the route that Russian units took. However, since then, there have been no further publications or images confirming this information. Yesterday, this information was also confirmed by individual pro-Russian experts, but in a more reserved manner. Yes, it was reported that there had been some progress, but no details or specifics were provided regarding the crossing of the Mokra Yali River. And today, this information was also confirmed by more reliable neutral cartographers, who indeed verified that a breakthrough had occurred and that the Russian army had managed to approach the Mokra Yali River. Possibly from the eastern bank of the Mokra Yali River, the Russian army is now striking Ukrainian positions. So we can see that this is an active phase of the offensive operation. The fighting is already taking place around the village of Veselaya. And apparently it is only a matter of time before the Russian army improves its positions in this small village. Slightly to the northeast, there is another village called Otradnaya. Today, Russian sources are publishing an image. In these frames, we see artillery preparation before the start of a decisive assault. This is definitely artillery preparation targeting Ukrainian positions. A fairly powerful preparation. And in the near future, it seems that movement will begin from the village of Razdolnoy toward the settlement of Otradnaya. It is difficult to say whether the Russian army will be able to break through the defenses and enter the village. The distance from the possible forward positions of the Russian armed forces is approximately 4 kilometers. But this is a manageable distance for equipment, provided there is proper preparation and the use of FPV drones. Such a distance can possibly be covered within an hour, allowing troops to dig in and fortify themselves in the village. And everyone understands that if the Russian army manages to enter and secure this settlement, the N15 highway will be automatically cut off, and the Ukrainian armed forces in the villages of Rozliv, Bogatyr and Alexiivka will begin to fall into a kind of operational encirclement, with the crisis only growing and worsening. Next, we move toward what is perhaps the most interesting front of the past 24 hours, the Novopavlivka direction. As you can see, the map here has undergone significant changes. There are adjustments toward the settlement of Bogdanovka, as well as toward the settlement of Novopavlivka, more precisely toward the border of the Dnipropetrovsk region. So let's go in order, starting with Bogdanovka. The situation here is similar to what is happening in Veselaya. The first reports that the Russian army had managed to break through the Ukrainian defenses in the Bogdanovka direction and enter the village emerged on March 27th from fairly reliable pro-Russian experts. According to the information received, the attack was directed at the southeastern part of Bogdanovka, where Russian units managed to land troops and establish a foothold. On March 28th, we received almost no news from Bogdanovka itself, but some cartographers confirmed that yes, there had been an attack, but slightly further southeast, toward forest belts and the Balka Serebrianaya area. That is, the attack was not directed at the village itself, but rather at positions to the south and southeast, likely in an attempt to establish a foothold for future operations. However, a lot of information has come in regarding the T0515 highway between the villages of Yasinovo and Andreevka. Here, Ukrainian sources have published footage showing FPV drone strikes on personnel and equipment of the Russian armed forces that were used in the decisive assault on this section of the front. Based on these objective control images published by the Ukrainian side, significant map adjustments are being made, as you can see. If we compare maps from different dates, yesterday these territories were mostly considered contested. Today, there is no doubt that the Russian army has managed to shorten the distance to Andreevka and also to Alexeyevka. Now let's move on to the morning of March 29th. By this morning, a significant amount of evidence has emerged, indicating that Russian units have not only approached Bogdanovka, but have also secured positions on its southeastern outskirts. Moreover, this was not just the work of reconnaissance or sabotage groups, nor just scattered assault units. If we are talking about Bogdanovka, the attack was carried out along a broad front, using a massive amount of equipment, including tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, combat vehicles, engineering vehicles, and demoning machines. In other words, it was a classic large-scale offensive using a significant number of vehicles, which, as we can see, was quite successful. Russian units managed to enter the village. Some cartographers are already making even greater adjustments to their maps. Certain pro-Russian sources are shading in half of Bogdanovka, although there is still no confirmed evidence of control over 50% of the village. Well, we will wait for further information. But one thing is clear. Today, the Russian army will continue its advance, pushing northwest in an attempt to reach the southern outskirts of the village of Troitskoye. Additionally, another video has surfaced today from the more classic Novopavlovsk direction, from the border area between Dnipro and Donetsk, and here, footage from the Ukrainian armed forces has been published. In this footage, we can also see columns of Russian military equipment moving toward the border between the regions, in the direction of Balka Serebryanka. Here, we can see how the Ukrainian armed forces are attempting to halt another push by the Russian army, using FPV drones, mortars, and artillery. However, given that Russian equipment is maneuvering and operating quite dynamically, it is naturally very difficult for the Ukrainian side to stop this advance. Some of the equipment moves into position, then abruptly turns around and retreats towards settlements like Nadeyevka, Zaporizhzhia, or Serebryanka. Another portion of the equipment continues the assault, creating some confusion. And now, the most crucial footage. Here, we see a Russian tank breaking through toward Balka Serebryanka. This last episode was geolocated precisely at this point. Based on this confirmed footage, we are roughly mapping the area because it's difficult to determine exactly where this breakthrough occurred, which tree lines are under Russian control and which are not. It's hard to say for now. Possibly within the next 24 to 48 hours, additional geolocations from the Ukrainian armed forces will emerge. Drone flights, strikes on Russian assault units or entrenched troops. Then we'll be able to understand, more or less, how Russian assault groups have dispersed along this section of the front. This is truly critical footage, a crucial breakthrough. And we can see that based on this video and confirmed footage, the current distance between the Russian army, the forward positions of the Russian armed forces, and the border of the Dnipropetrovsk region is now no more than 3 kilometers. To be precise, 2.9 kilometers. This is the shortest distance to the Dnipro region since the start of hostilities in Ukraine. We can see that the assaults and attacks will likely not stop today. In fact, Russia's efforts to finally breach Ukrainian defenses in this sector and reach this border will probably double or even triple today. Therefore, we expect the most geolocations and news from this part of the front. As for the Pokrovsk direction, over the past 24 hours, the map has not undergone significant changes. There is ongoing artillery dueling, but at the moment, it appears the Ukrainian side is concentrating all its efforts on transferring reserves and reinforcements to Novopavlivka to stabilize the front line. Of course, Zelensky would not want another media defeat. Next, we move to a small village called Lisovka, located southeast of Pokrovsk. Today, information from various neutral cartographers indicates that the Russian armed forces have managed to slightly expand their zone of control, and currently Lisovka is about 50% under Russian control. We then proceed to the Constantinople sector, where a lot of important footage has been coming from. Let me remind you that just a few days ago, various neutral cartographers noted that the Ukrainian armed forces conducted a fairly successful series of counterattacks, allowing them to fully retake the village of Shcherbinivka. Ukrainian units also managed to redeploy some of their forces into the northern part of Donetsk. This is how the map was adjusted between dates. This one shows the end of March 24th, and this one the end of March 25th. But as you can see, most of the changes involve contested territories. Geolocations confirming the breakthrough from March 24th to 25th were never published. However, today, March 29th, the first confirmed footage has emerged, at least proving Ukrainian presence in the southern part of Zaporizhzhia. The footage was published by Russian sources. Here we can observe counter-battery duels, artillery exchanges, with Russian artillery units striking Ukrainian forward positions, mortar crews, and FPV drone operators. Several episodes were geolocated in different parts of southern Zaporizhzhia. Based on this, we can confirm that both the northern and southern parts of Zaporizhzhia remain under Ukrainian control. So we see that a fierce, heavy battle is still ongoing here, with neither side holding a clear advantage. It's roughly 50-50. Next, we move to the Lyman sector, where the Russian armed forces continue their offensive to cut off a small salient between the villages of Nova and Novopavlivka. Today, according to various cartographers, Russian forces have taken control of another Ukrainian stronghold near the village of Novoye. This area has come under Russian control based on neutral cartographers' data. We can see that the pace of the offensive here is not slowing. It's only gaining momentum. Even from this map configuration, we can assume that within the next 48 to 72 hours, Russian forces may enter and possibly secure the small village of Nova. This could become a turning point in the fighting for the South Kupiansk or Lyman directions. Next, we head to the North Kupiansk direction, where a lot of interesting news is coming from. Today, various cartographers report further expansion of Russian positions near the village of Krasnopersha. Recall that just yesterday, the Russian Defense Ministry reported that troops from the West Group had taken full control of Krasnopersha. Now, there is information that beyond securing the village, Russian forces are expanding their control zone around it, clearing a small forest area called Zalivan II. The map may soon change again. We then move to northern Ukraine in the Sumy region, where many important updates are coming from. This morning, the official channel of the North Troop Grouping reported that the small village of Veselovka has come under full Russian control. This village is located in the northern Sumy region near Belovody. Later, this information was confirmed by several reliable pro-Russian cartographers and experts. By the morning of March 29th, geolocated footage was published, showing a Russian unit's flag raised on a tower. However, it's important to note that while the flag footage exists, there is a high probability it was placed by a drone, not soldiers. This doesn't mean Russia doesn't control the area, but it suggests it's still unsafe for troops to move openly. If soldiers had raised the flag, we would have seen at least one or two of them in the footage, but we only see the flag at the highest point, likely drone deployed. There are also reports that Russian forces are gradually advancing toward Vodolahi. Soon fighting may conclude near Zhuravka, and the first confirmed reports may come from Belovody. The Russian advance here is rapid, and Ukrainian forces have so far failed to stabilize the situation. Next, we move to the Sudzha district, where Russian forces have also expanded their control zone. Yesterday, the map looked like this. The Russian Defense Ministry reported the clearing of Hoholivka. Additional footage showed Ukrainian forces, while retreating, allegedly destroying a gas distribution system in Sudzha. Today, reports indicate that Russian troops have approached Oleshnya, the last small village in this part of the Sudzha district. Currently, Russian forces are advancing from the north, northwest, south, southeast, and northeast, slowly encircling the village. There is a high probability that within the next few days, possibly over the weekend, Russian troops will enter the village, and fighting will begin in the residential areas. Important updates are also coming from Huyeve. This village is in the southwestern part of the Sudzha district. Two other villages, Huyev and Hanal, remain fully or partially under Ukrainian control. Today, some cartographers have updated the map, noting significant Russian advances. Yesterday, footage from northeastern Huyeve was published, showing a Russian soldier filming Ukrainian positions in the southwest. Based on this, we confirmed Russian control over northeastern Huyeve and the forest behind it. Today, reports suggest Russia controls 60 to 70% of the village, with Ukraine holding 30 to 40%. Given this configuration, Ukraine may soon retreat from Huyeva toward Harnal, after which fighting for the last Ukrainian-held village in the Sudja district will begin. That's all for now, dear friends. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and all the best to you.